Began for your hand and pull the trigger.
Hello all, and welcome to another episode of White Supremacists Missed the Point in my comments, and other comments besides. I've run out of Roll for Insight, so if you are an influencer or a game designer and want to answer some questions for Roll for Insight, let me know. If you've got any questions that you'd like me to answer, let me know. Or if there's any more longer form videos that you would like me to tackle a subject on, let me know about that as well. It doesn't just have to be game stuff, it can be other things as well, but not for Roll for Insight. Okay, let's see. Comments on the Kalergi Plan video. You know, you were waiting for it, you were expecting it. It's been 4 years and I'm still getting comments every day. Dan Bauer says, "Stop lying to yourself. You know what's happening and want to virtue signal and pretend it's not. There is a cohesive plan to displace white people in their homelands being carried out currently. White populations within countries they founded have statistically undeniably been plummeting in primacy in recent years. It's not people falling in love while travelling or whatever cope you want to give. It's lax border policies. Primarily military-aged men storming all white homelands on boats, and clear and demonstrative agitation from mainstream media that being white is unfashionable. Wake up and get with reality." None of which deals with the point of the Kalergi Plan videos, which is that the conspiracy theory is that this person, Count Coudenhove Kalergi, laid out a plan in his book Practical Idealism for doing all of this stuff that you allege is happening but isn't either. If you want to debunk me, the way to do it is not to spin up your conspiracy engines. It is to go through Practical Idealism and find an explicitly laid out plan within it for all these things that you're talking about. I mean, if you trip over your doorstep in the morning, right, and you blame it on the Jews, and you cite the protocols of the elders of Zion, I mean, you did trip over your step, but is there anything in the protocols about making idiots trip over their front step? No. Plus, it's a well-known and well-established hoax, so it doesn't matter that you tripped over your step. What matters is that you can prove that this conspiracy of the Jews was behind it. So, yeah, even if I were to grant you your premise that there is this organised, secretive thing of bringing all kinds of people into the country to displace white people, which isn't true, 2 + 2 is 4, not 2, then you still wouldn't have debunked my debunk of the Kalergi Plan. You need to demonstrate that the Kalergi Plan exists within the pages of Practical Idealism, or Practical Idealismus, as I think it's called, in German, and show me the plan. That is the only thing you can do. That's it. If we want to have an argument about immigration more generally, we can, but these videos are not the place to do it. Less articulately, Angel Devil Heavenly 4009 says, "You are blind, deaf, and dumb. In legislation, you are an idiot." Okay. Why is it that when people fall for one conspiracy theory, they seem to fall for all conspiracy theories, whether it be religion or others? It's peculiar. It's like they have some sort of weakness in their mental immune system. That means they fall for anything and everything. It seems that once people fall for one conspiracy theory, they fall for all of them. Very odd. Iceman has been bombarding me with nonsense, much of which was spam. I suspect it's an alt account for the YouTube channel he was trying to get people to go and check out. But he said, "They said UFOs and aliens weren't real either. Now what is the government saying?" Well, the government's not saying anything. Some alleged witnesses are saying some very guarded things, but no one has yet offered any evidence that UFOs are actually alien spacecraft, or that we have been visited by aliens. So that's a really peculiar thing to point towards. And also, one thing being true doesn't make another thing true, right? Gravity is true. You know, you will drop something, it will accelerate towards the largest local center of gravity at a speed dependent on the force of that gravity. Right, that's true. That doesn't mean Bigfoot is rifling through your trash. These are two completely unrelated things. So, yeah. He also said, plenty of channels out there prove this fool wrong. I provided their names, but he had me shadow banned and my comments deleted. I don't have any control over shadow bans. I deleted your comments, which was spam, and left the rest of them up. None of the videos or the channels that he links to demonstrated that the Kalergi plan was real. None of them showed it in the pages of Practical Idealism. Iceman also said, no, you don't allow anything that would line up with what was claimed to be in the book, clearly being shown every day. The book may not be real, but what is happening is, and you definitely can't prove that it isn't, fool. That's not what these videos are set to do, though I could rise to that challenge. These videos are there to prove that the Kalergi plan is nonsense. Okay, let's leave that aside for the moment. I've been reviewing a lot of Lamentations of the Flame Princess books, and perhaps I've been a little harsh. I don't mean to be. I love Jim Raggi. I love the work that he does. I love his attitude. He's definitely worthy of support on plenty of grounds, but I was underwhelmed or disappointed by quite a lot of the books in the new crop. Your mileage may vary, your taste may vary. I'm a jaded game designer and not your average sort of gamer, so yeah, that's a problem when it comes to reviewing. Still, on my review for the Yellow Book of Breckevold, Jonathan Frost said, you didn't mention the cover material, the binding, and the thick paper. That's a high quality book. So I recorded most of those videos, the reviews, back to back, and I had mentioned the quality earlier on, so my bad if I didn't mention it again, but the production quality is always high on Lamentations books. You can kind of take that as read after a while, and yeah, repetition doesn't go so great. Yeah. Chelsea Manhattan Republican, on an old video of mine about my experiences with chaos magic, religion, spirituality, and the occult, commented merely 666, and I have no real idea what they meant by that, so moving swiftly on. Back to Breckevold. Jack Fetch said, I always think these work better as a base of operations rather than as an adventure setting with the occasional downtime backstory interaction. As a base of operations and as a location, yeah, it's a bit more interesting. You could rework it to be something abandoned, but when you're reviewing a product, you pretty much have to review it as it is, as it exists. Yeah, I do always try to find the positive in things, and I will often suggest alternative uses for things, but I didn't feel that the book gave what its target audiences would likely be looking for. But yeah, it's a nice object. There's things you can do with it, but as presented, it didn't strike me as that useful. Matt Shaw said, thanks for the review. I was mostly interested in this one considering its size. Think it might be worth getting anyway to use in other games, but I'm not going to rush out and get it. Also, I wouldn't count on a Potter RPG doing the numbers. That recent video game did very well initially, but a recent article I saw had the player count at less than 7,000 now. Apparently the game has similar problems you described for Wizard School RPGs, the setup leading to tedium. I think you can do things about that. So I had my own game, WizKid, which is sort of a parody of Mage and a parody of Potter to an extent. And, you can structure a game around a school. I mean, if you think back to your own school days, you don't remember every class ins and outs of what you learned each lesson and so on. And if you look at school-based television shows and things like Grange Hill or Behind the Bike Sheds, they didn't really focus so much on the classes, or even, Johnny Briggs, I suppose you could look at, but particular events in and around the school and in and around the friendships and so on that were there. Even the Potter films don't generally spend that much time in the classrooms, except where, plot points are there to be put across. And to be fair, Breckevold doesn't expect you to roleplay out every day in the classrooms. The classes are places for picking up rumours that you then follow up on somewhat conventional adventures in and around the area around the school. So, they address it there a little bit. And that's how you would structure such a thing. Potter was often considered to be the holy grail of RPG licenses that was out there, but the author was always very cagey about letting other people play in her sandbox, and the existence of the computer game would seem to suggest that she's relaxed a little bit on that point and is more open to other licenses. Maybe the money tap has slowed down slightly, but I don't think she's particularly money motivated. But that should potentially leave room for somebody to reach out and get the Potter license. And despite the fuss online, the boycott and everything of the computer game, it still sold a hugely massive amount. So I think it's not quite the holy grail it would have been at the very height of Potter mania, but it would still be a good license or game to get. This one confused me. In my review of the Black Sword hack, I must have mentioned that I'm also a conventional writer, of fiction. I've written short stories for collections. I've written one full-length novel. I've done stuff. I'm in collections alongside other people, and I've written erotica under a pen name as well. But Elias1579 said, I'm also a writer, in kind of retarded SpongeBob sort of speech. And I don't really know what they're driving at, because I am. Well, what's the point? I don't know. I don't know. Back on Breckevold, Troffel says, Good lords, man, what happened to your poor voice? Surely Potter-esque games have got to be so far past the current popularity window, and for mercy's sake, I saw that as an employee at a university. Is it time somebody wrote a piece all the magic school books ignore, an actual curriculum with progress and an expected results program? Where's the weird twist that makes this a Lamentations game? I mean, Cthulhuid is all. I thought maybe this would be some kind of king in coloration sort of thing. SB Hoizo, in the replies to that comment, said, by the author's blog, this was originally intended to be an OSE module, which should explain why it's slightly more conventional, I suppose. My voice. What is wrong with my voice? I am doing a lot more streaming, and I'm doing quite a bit of, what's the word? Mentoring. So I'm spending a lot more time talking. So my voice is somewhat worn out. It's also why I'm not producing so many videos necessarily all the time. Plus this medication that I'm on gives me a cough, so I have a constant tickle in my throat. So if there's slightly more vocal fry, or my voice sounds a little bit deeper than normal, that would be why. So yeah, I'm talking too much, and medical issues. Back to the Kalergi plan. So, Deranged Zombie said, "It isn't real. Meanwhile, in Europe, European population's culture, law, tradition and creed is erased, with forced flooding, chiefly thanks to the EU and Merkel," by which I think he meant Merkel. Again, even if I were to grant you all of these things that you claim are happening, you have not proved that it's the result of some sort of scheme hatched by a mixed-race German aristocrat in the interwar years. Right? Why is this so difficult to grasp? And the rest of the comments there is back and forth on that. Maybe I should do another video pointing out how the entire arguments that they're making are nonsense. Not just the Kalergi plan, but this is the Kalergi plan video, so fuck off. Eldred Wolfsbane left a comment on an old video about the Personal Independence Payment Tribunal, which I had to go before to get my disability payments. And thank you for your concern, Eldred. I got through it. I sorted it all out. But there are many, many thousands, tens of thousands, I think it's over 100,000 people, who are not succeeding. The whole system is set up to try and deny people and to make them out to be scroungers and so on, and there's an enormous amount of social pressure on people. So if you've got some sympathy, donate to charities like Mind that help people navigate this nonsense. Okay, on my review of the Meanderings of the Mind, Dr. Pat said, "I think you're a scumbag for reviewing all this before anyone had a chance to play them, just based on a read-through. Run it and then tell me what you think." Well, Dr. Pat, Jim sent me the stuff, right, before it came out in stores and so on, and for sale on his store, while he was doing the rounds of the conventions. So the idea being to build hype and to let people get some sort of idea of what these adventures are beforehand, you know, to drive sales, you know, and I did that. That's what reviewers do. Also, unlike a lot of reviewers, I don't give away the plot of the adventures. So I really don't see what your problem is. Go stick your head in a pig. On my review of Galileo 2 Judgment Day, quite a few people seem to like my review of that. That's the adventure I thought was the best of the bunch. I really enjoyed the look of that. But Jack says, thinking of doing a time travel campaign, possibly with a tie-in with Machinations of the Space Princess and Modern Essentials. Yeah, more power to you. Enjoy yourself. Back to the Meanderings of the Mind. Cyrix says it's a mysterious flesh pit, but an RPG adventure format. Yeah, and not as mysterious nor as big. So kind of, but not really. Yeah. Back to the Kalergi plan. Alan Hargreaves, the voice of Fur 2361, says, "Oh, it's real all right, my friend. Just visit London, Birmingham or Newcastle in the UK." I've spent a lot of time in London. I've spent a lot of time in Birmingham. I do not see any evidence there that a mixed-race German aristocrat in the interwar years came up with a complicated long-term plan for flooding Europe with migrants or anything. Quite the opposite. Both Brum and London are all the better for being melting pot cities. So I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Back to Meanderings of the Mind. Elvis Noyes says, "Looks interessant. Until now, Fecal Lands and Temple of the Worm are the ones that caught my attention the most. Waiting for a review of the yellow cover. I mean, Temple of the Worm's good but complicated, I think, for some groups. Fecal Lands is a one-trick pony. You might not get that. Okay, so pony is rhyming slang for crap. Right? It's pony and trap. Crap. So that was like a pun. There you go. Also on my review of that, Bernhard Schleifer noticed that I used a snippet from Canyons of Your Mind by the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band on the intro to that video. Well done. You win 3 internets. Let's see. Yeah, there were some more general comments on my reviews. Simon Skalka says, glad to see that you go to Lamentations for the same reason I do. Weirdness, history, big ideas, and edginess. And yeah, it did feel that was missing a little bit from this latest crop of releases, and I think that's why I ended up feeling a little bit disappointed and was perhaps a little bit unfair. I don't know. Back to Kalergi Plan. Ozark 8043, who ironically has what looks like the Sutton Hoo helmet as his avatar, considering the Anglo-Saxons were invaders to this country. That's quite amusing. But he says Kalergi was openly anti-white, as you are. This literally happening. He literally planned it in practical idealism with mass migration and hated Europeans, calling us inbred one-soul persons, stating we wouldn't exist, stating the Eurasian Negroid race of the future would have no roots and thus be easier to rule over. Unfortunately for Ozark, I've actually read the book, and yes, while some of Kalergi's ideas look a bit racist to modern eyes, I think it's easy to see why someone in the 1920s and 30s who was mixed race, German-Japanese, might perhaps be a little bit invested in these things. And he didn't say that people would be easier to rule. He said it would be easier for people to form international coalitions, like the European Union, like NATO, like the United Nations, when national identity was a little bit undermined. And he also pointed to the Jews as a people who had been, pogromed, shoved around, pushed about throughout the world, that they were in a unique position to kind of steal a march on this internationalism, because they'd been forced to be internationalist. So, yeah, none of which, by any stretch of the imagination, Mr. Ozark, proves that this plan exists in that book. Which it doesn't. So, let's see. Yeah, another general comment on the Lamentations reviews. Hero Time says, thanks for the reviews, Grim. Jim's coming up X's so far. Be nice to see the guy release some back to basics heavy stuff instead of the recent milquetoast jumble. Anything worthwhile in this release cycle. So yeah, Temple of the Worm, Galileo 2, those are definitely more worthwhile entries. Those are the ones I would say are for definite pickups. But like I said, I'm not the normal kind of guy. So you may find other things interesting in a way that I wouldn't. Even if I give things a low score, it's worth watching the reviews because your opinion may differ. Okay, I don't know if this is still true, but on my review of Shadow of the Demon Lord, which I've just accidentally scrolled way past. There we go. apparently, according to Neuromancer 9K, there are 2 bundle of holding deals for Shadow of the Demon Lord. So if you were interested in picking it up with a ton of supplements, or looking to pick it up as a new game, then hopefully those are still up and you can get hold of them. Apparently they're launching a new Kickstarter soon for another game. So if Demon Lord appealed to you and you think they're likely to make things that you would be interested in, keep an eye on that. On an ancient video about Based Stickman, remember him? Mike Hannon says, typical Biden supporter, lol. Mike, I'm English, and look at the date on this video. Back to Kalergi Plan, because they never shut up about it. Hulk Hogan superfan says, bruh, it's happening, shut the fuck up. Okay, so show me the plan in the book. Which he can't. So all he followed up with was, the mass ethnic replacement of Europeans by a Jewish? Made of wood? Elite is happening whether or not Kalergi was real or not. These videos are about the Kalergi Plan. Address the Kalergi Plan. Alright? That's what they're about. If you want to have an argument about immigration on a wider basis, this is not the place to do it. This is a debunk of specifically the Kalergi Plan. Alright? You're trying to argue the moon landings were fake on something that's debunking flat Earth. It's a completely different thing. Lepidoptera666 says, if Grimm wasn't on 30 streams a week, he might have time to make his own videos to have content. Why not load up a live stream and just get OGGM and the Red Room on it? You know, having other YouTubers make video for you means less time they have to make videos for their own channels, and added stress from making the extra videos and neglecting their channels. I hope you're paying them well to give you content for your channel. Why are you being such a dick? Look, I don't think my channel is particularly big or popular, but a lot of these people have channels that are smaller and less popular. Part of the reason I wanted to open up my channel to allow other people to use my platform was to allow them to grow their own channels. You know, kind of selfless, really. Yeah, it gives me content. I'm not on 30 streams a week. I do Tabletopless, I do The Weekend Geek, and I do a stream on Sundays, either my game or T-shirted Historian's game. That's pretty much it, usually, apart from all the mentoring and stuff that I do that you guys don't see, right? So from my point of view, I'm helping people, and it's purely opt-in. All right, well, they are getting, I know it's a bad word, but they're getting exposure and hopefully more subscribers to their own channels, and I'm hosting an interesting discussion and keeping regular content on my channel, so it's a win-win for everyone considered. So go fuck yourself. Let's see what's next. Okay, my review of Black Chamber was perhaps particularly scathing. One thing that people seem to have picked up on in a couple of my reviews is my criticisms of the art involved in a couple of the new Lamentations releases. But I was careful to say that this is a matter of taste, that this is the style of underground comics and outsider art, and it's just that aesthetically it really doesn't appeal to me. So that's a matter of personal taste. You might not have an issue with it. I do. Like, I don't like Scrap Princess's art in Veins of the Earth either. I think it's a bit shit. But your mileage may vary. So Will in New Haven says, I think that the art goes well with that white print on black pages style. Neither is my favourite, but they harmonise. And yeah, that is something that can be said for a consistent art style throughout a book. even if you don't like it, it's at least unified, right? Also on that one, Aaron the Relentless said, deeply average, I feel, is probably low-key the worst rating you can give an LOTFP product. I don't like the style either. Would prefer medium grey on black to white on black. Haven't seen the product myself, but white on black has always hurt my eyes. If that was the point, it's a bad point to have. I mean, it fits the theme here, so it makes sense in context. I find it easier to read light on dark, but it's one of those choices that seems to divide people a huge amount. I don't really know necessarily why. On an older review of the Alien RPG, Stepens Raka says, to be fair, Free League does a pretty good job of adapting Year Zero engine to different IPs, so each iteration feels rather organic. I think Modiphius is doing a better job of adapting a single base system to different genres and modes of play. My issues with the Year Zero engine are fairly fundamental, and I don't think it's particularly well suited to anything. I mean, it's okay. it does the job, but the chances of succeeding or failing are too remote without pushing and overextending your character. And so it encourages you to take risks from the get-go for the re-rolling of the dice. That for me tends to lend itself to either extremely cautious play with lots of failure or overextended play and a rapid death spiral. And I don't feel that they do really adapt the system by setting particularly at all or well. Maybe it's just a style of gaming that I don't vibe with. Back to Kalergi Plan. I'm missing a lot of videos of comments on other people's Roll for Insight because I don't feel that I can comment necessarily. But if you're the OGGM or Miguel and Sylvia, maybe you should go back and check those and see what people have said. So on the Kalergi Plan, Ainsley Harriet 2209 says, this cuck who filmed the video should be forced to house illegal immigrants in his house for pushing this leftist propaganda crap. I just debunked a nonsensical conspiracy theory. I think immigrants should be processed properly and in a timely fashion and housed properly and in a timely fashion. That doesn't mean putting them in anyone's houses, though remember we did that for Ukrainians. So are you against having Ukrainians housed over here as well? Don't know. 86 Blacklist 92 said it's very real and the Ukraine-NATO-Russia war is going to put the nail in the coffin, speeded up by 2 decades. How many refugees will enlist when World War III pops off? Was rhetorical. Well, nonetheless, I don't think World War III is at all likely at this point, and Russia's pretty much fucked now. They could win the war in Ukraine, win in inverted commas, and they'd still be fucked. So, yeah. But you've done nothing to prove that this plan is real. Show me the plan in the book. It's a really old video I wrote about GMS, polarization and diversity, which was a long sort of ramble reply to someone else. And Jack Fetch, again, said, watching this, and it's sad and scary how much of what you warned us about has actually come to pass. I don't want to be one of those people that says, well, yeah, I predicted all this, blah, blah, blah. I am your prophet. Come to me and do obeisance. I don't want to be Tim Paul. I had forgotten what was in that video, and I went back and listened to it, and yeah, on quite a lot of stuff I did call it, but I've been wrong a lot as well. So, take everything with a pinch of salt. And the Dragonbane review, there was a lot of sort of mixed replies there, and some things from people who had grown up playing its earlier incarnations, but not a lot of love for the props, the cards, the kind of sort of more gimmicky elements about Dragonbane. Yeah, I don't know if they're misjudging the market there at all, particularly because online play is so much more important these days, and if you're using physical elements, replicating them can be difficult when you're trying to use a VTT or similar. So that might be a misstep. But then something like Deadlands, the chips and the cards, it all goes together with the theme of something like Deadlands. I don't know that it fits the theme of Dragonbane, but props and doodads can work, and different styles of skill resolution and so on. Dice, cards, drawing beads from a pot, those sorts of things. They can all lend themselves to reinforcing the theme. Okay, on a video I did about being careful fighting arseholes, in case you become an arsehole, Subcommandante73 says, in a time when some trans activists are promoting rape culture and violence against feminists, it seems okay to get angry about this. There are many in the LGBT community who are sick and tired of being lumped in with the T. Trans activists are awful and do not represent trans people very well, I don't think. I haven't seen anything promoting rape culture. I have seen people saying nasty things online, but in order to be consistent, I have to say, well, this is just online nonsense, and nobody's actually going to hurt anybody. And you do see appeals to violence and removal of healthcare and so on directed at trans people, which is equally nasty, or perhaps even worse, as it's being legislated into being. Excuse me. Right, and that'll just about do it. There were some comments on the Gamergate video I did about the death of feminist frequency, but who wants to rehash the old arguments? Mostly kind of just taking note as I was, and largely agreeing. So that's where we are with that. That's all the comments for now. So yeah, hit me up. Excuse me, with any questions you want me to answer or any topics you want me to tackle. If you want to contribute to Roll for Insight, despite what some people are saying about how I should pay you or something, then let me know. It's purely voluntary. And I'll see you all around on the internet. Take care. Zang.
Satana Station is an addition to Machinations of the Space Princess. It's a whole, sleazy space station, full of locations, services, adventures and inspiration for your old-school space opera games. Over 100 locations, a bevy of non-player characters, and more plot hooks than you can shake an Arcturo Mega Stick at. Buy it at post-mort.com, drive-through RPG, and hard copy at lulu.com.